Namaste. Good evening to you all. I'm super excited to bring you this evening's yin practice. My name is KJ Hamus, and I hope you've had a fabulous day up until this point. So, tonight we're really going to focus on finding rest and using this time to find rest, not only in the shapes, but in between the shapes. As we think about preparing for the week ahead and whatever challenges the week ahead may bring, and also to give us a chance with a little bit of a respite from any challenges that we're bringing with us onto the mat. So we will be starting in a shape. We'll be starting in a supported butterfly shape, and our supported butterfly shape, we'll start to think about opening up the legs, but it's going to potentially be a little intense in the heart space. So before we set up for that, just find a real quick comfortable seat. We won't be here for very long, maybe a minute to a minute 30, just to give ourselves a chance to check in with where we're at emotionally. And then we'll get into the shape, and then we'll start to draw ourselves in a little bit more into the practice. So from your comfortable position, let it be what it's going to be right now. Crisscross applesauce, legs out in front. Doesn't have to be anything crazy or formal, just whatever feels good. I invite you to close your eyes and find a soft point for your gaze. And starting now, just tune the outside world out. Really drawing your focus inward into your heart space. And take a moment to notice how you're feeling emotionally. So what are you carrying in with you to the practice? This can be stress. This can be stress from things that are happening in the world. There could be anything coming up with your family or in your personal life. So those type of stresses could be really weighing down on you in your heart and in the nervous system. You could be feeling joyous, you could be feeling positive, you could be feeling some combination, you could be feeling stressed and positive at the same time. So there's no restrictions on how you're feeling. Just take the time to truly notice and name the feeling and own it. And one tool that may help, if there's a lot, is just thinking about 2 words that would describe best how you're feeling right now in this moment. And again, they can be in contradiction with each other. They don't have to be positive and happy. It can be positive and stressed, stressed and angry, whatever is coming up. And then as you're ready, just no rush. If you're still focusing on your feelings or what you're bringing with you, stay there. But if you're ready, start to bring one hand to your heart and one hand over the other hand. Acknowledging those feelings and honoring what you're bringing with you to your practice tonight. And even here, starting to give yourself permission to be in the moment and feel what you're feeling. And if your eyes are closed, go ahead and gently blink open your eyes. And just take a moment to reorient in the space by potentially looking around the room, maybe into corners, noticing what's on the ground next to you, anything like that. Just coming back into this space. So part of the reason we took the time to do that is because our feelings, and particularly how the nervous system interacts with those feelings, can really affect our practice and really govern how open the body might want to get in any given day. So it's important that we tap into that, particularly as we get into this next shape. So we're going to come into a supported butterfly now. This is totally optional, and there'll be several different variations that we can take depending on the level of openness in our heart space, and not only physically with the shoulders and the chest, but emotionally as well. So feel free to grab your pillow or your bolster. First option, is just to lay it down and then scooch your sit bones up to there and then lay back on that. So letting the arms rest. For the butterfly portion, soles of the feet will touch, knees will come out wide. So that may feel a little bit less intense than the next option I'm going to offer. So feel free to stay there if that calls to you. Or we can make almost a ramp shape with our pillows and our blocks. So we take one block for the head, and depending again on how you feel, adjust the level for the head block and then adjust the level for the shoulder block. So if there's a lot of physical tension and emotional tension, you may want to come on the medium level and even on the lower level for your blocks. The shoulder block can go in between the shoulder blades, or it can go directly below the shoulder blades. It's really a personal preference. I'm going to go up a couple of levels. So there's that. You can lay back on that or take your pillow or your bolster just as extra comfort. And again, depending on what kind of blocks you have, cork blocks like I have, not always the most comfortable. Go ahead and place that over it. And then if you'd like, if you have a blanket available, you can even place that on top too for just a little extra comfort and support for your head. So again, 3 options. First option, just using your pillow. Second option, adjusting the level of the blocks down to the lower level and the medium level, and then the medium level and the higher level for that. So it's really up to you. If you decide that none of that calls to you, just because it's really not open, that's fine. Don't force it. You can even come onto your belly and maybe see if connecting the heart with the ground is the place where you need to be tonight and finding that connection. So go ahead here and start to get set up. Soles of the feet to touch, knees out wide, and then bring your head and your shoulders to whatever you decided to do. And I'll ring the bell to invite us into our practice and help us tune in to the space. As we start to once again either close the eyes or find a soft point for our gaze, we'll tune in to our internal world, our internal being. So letting the outside world, the external world fade around us, just drawing our focus in. And as we do so, we take a moment here to honor and acknowledge the stewards who came before us of the land we currently are on. So in Washington, D.C., we're on Anacostan land. And we continue to open our hearts and be reminded of the roots of the practice of yoga, coming from India, other countries in South Asia. This is an ancient practice Black and brown yogis have shared with us as a gift. And so we want to honor the roots and honor those teachers tonight. And so as we come in to this shape even a little bit deeper, I invite you to observe your breath. So thinking about how the breath is moving in the body. Where do you feel the breath start? Where does the breath stop? And really, what is the breath telling you tonight? Is it indicating that there's a high level of stress and anxiety and activity happening in the body? Is it indicating that it wants to find a deeper, deeper role in how we're taking the shapes this evening? Is it inviting you to take slower, longer breaths? Is it inviting you to hang out in a particular space of the body or explore an emotion a little bit? Breath is a big indicator of not only how we're feeling, but how we can move through our practice mindfully, how we let the prana, our life force, into our body. So every time we come onto our mat and we notice our breath, we're developing a deeper relationship with our breath. Sometimes it may feel brand new, just depending on the day and the time. So take a moment to just note the relationship you have with your breath this evening. And as you're ready, I invite you to come back to the two words that you were thinking of at the beginning of the practice. Describe how you're feeling tonight. And remember, these words can be in contradiction with each other. That's okay. So allowing us to hold two feelings in our own space at the same time. As you tune back into those phrases, you start to acknowledge if one is more dominant than the other, or if they're about equal. Taking time now to reflect on why those feelings might be coming up and what you could need from your practice to enhance those feelings or to take those feelings and give you space to be able to work through it a little bit more and in a more comfortable fashion and then in a safe fashion. As you've settled into this shape, you may begin to notice some things changing in the body. Whether that's a deepening of the breath, softening of the breath, or maybe even the emotions or the words are starting to just shift balance a little bit. So take time to acknowledge that. And with every shape we're making this evening, as we settle in, see if we can become 5 to 10% more comfortable. And through this gentle time of letting go, whether that's maybe a physical let go, or emotional, or even a mental letting go, are you able to find some more rest in the shape? Remember, that is our intention this evening. It's our underlying intention, besides any other personal intention you wish to set. How can we use the shapes tonight to create more space in the body so we can find truer rest? We'll be here for about another minute. Just continue to notice your breath. Take one more breath in here and breath out. As you're ready, just gently make your way on up, taking your time, inviting in any movement that feels good to you. So think about the movement as a way to just help unstuck any extra energy that's trying to be released or that needs to move into different parts of the body. And we'll go into our next shape. So we're going to come into mantis pose, which looks very similar, and it truly is a child's pose with a couple of variations. So you may want your blanket here for underneath your knees, depending on what kind of surface you're using or how your knees are feeling this evening. And I recommend having your blocks for our praying mantis variation. So from here, just bring your knees, and you decide to notice how your back is feeling and notice how your hips are feeling. So part of finding rest is also allowing the body to ease into the shape and using that progression to slowly open things up as we're ready to do so, not only physically but emotionally as well. So knees can stay completely underneath the body, and this may help stretch out your low back, or you can start to widen the knees a little bit, even bringing the knees as wide as the mat, allowing the big toes to touch. If the hips are really tight and not wanting to go all the way back to the heels, consider bringing your pillow or your bolster just underneath the bum, so you've got some place to almost sit on and you're not having to hold yourself up. And you can use several pillows, several blocks, whatever is going to feel best for you. So for just mantis pose, you'll bring your arms out long, letting your chin or your forehead rest. Praying mantis, we have two options. You can bring your hands into prayer position without your blocks, elbows resting on the ground, and then draw your thumbs to the nape of the neck. Option two for praying mantis is to use your blocks, bring them to about shoulders width distance, and resting your elbows on the blocks. Hands in prayer position, and then once again bringing the hands to the nape of the neck. And the blocks may help support shoulders that are tight, bringing the ground closer to you, whatever feels good. So go ahead and come into your shape. We're going to be here for about 5 minutes total. And as you move in through the shape, start to see if you can even out your breath. So notice where the breath is feeling the most stuck, whether maybe that's on the inhale, the slight retention at the top of the inhale, or the bottom of the exhale, or even the exhale itself where it might feel more bound. Using that as your indicator, trying to even out the 4 parts of the breath. So inhale, retention, exhale, and retention. And it's not where we're stopping breathing, it's just a slight pause. So we're not crunching anything or holding anything. Seeing if you can start to even that out. And notice how that feels in the body and what that does to the shape. Can you use that breath, that evening of the breath, which we call a square breath, to open up a bit more? If at any point throughout the rest of this shape, we've got another 4 minutes here, throughout the rest of the shape, you're finding it's actually bringing up anxiety, heart palpitations, anything like that, suspend that breath and come into your natural rhythm of breathing in and out through the nose, maybe even taking a cleansing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. You can stay there, or you can always feel comfortable to step back into the pranayama or our breathing practice. take your time. Again, ease into what you need and work with it. We got time. So I'm going to give you some space to find your breath. You may even start to count the breath. If it's a 4 count you're kind of finding, feel free to count that. And if that's not your thing, you don't have to be so scientific about it. Just see if you can even it out and what that does. I'll let you know when it's time to come out. After your next full breath, slowly just start to come out of your shape. Take your time, be really mindful of how you move, staying connected with your breath in whatever fashion calls to you. Moving your props off to the side, we invite you to come into puddle pose. You can take this on your back, on your belly, or even on your side here. And our puddle pose is pretty much what it sounds like. It's an opportunity for us to melt like a puddle on our mat and notice what is happening in the body after we come out of the shape. So notice what's happening physically. Tap into what's happening energetically. You might start to feel things moving around in the body that are energy and that were stuck before. They could even be reverberating off the fascia, this energy, which is known as the rebounding effect. So you could really have unstuck something. But how can the shape help you do nothing in this moment? How can the shape that we just came out of lend you to being able to sink and feel the support of the earth and not do any work? And then as you're ready, if you're on your back or on your belly, roll on to your favorite side. If you're already on your side, hang out here for a moment. Maybe even bringing your knees into your chest to give yourself a really big hug. And then as you're ready, as you feel comfortable, start to lift on up. So the next shape we're going to take is deer pose. And that physically is going to be targeting the front side of the body. We'll start by targeting the hip flexors, the quads, and then we'll take a second variation toward the end and take a twist. So we'll be working on the spine there as well. This can also be a heart opener too, depending on which variation you take. So once again, take a moment to check back and notice how open your heart is feeling, notice how your emotions are playing into your practice, and really check in with the nervous system and breath as well. These are all indicators of where we may want to take the shapes, and we don't want to force anything. So we're going to start. I'll look at the camera first to just demonstrate, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to start with our left leg behind us, and the right foot is going to come onto the inside of the leg. This can be really snug. It can be a little bit looser, totally up to you. The ankle of our left foot can be flat on the ground if the ankle has that range of motion, or if it doesn't, no worries. You can even bring it out so it's more on the inside part of the foot. It's straighter. It's really up to you. So take which variation that calls to you. So from here, so many different things. We can use props, not use props. Lots of options. So you can stay here if you're feeling the stretch already in your quad. You can start to walk your hands back. Maybe even walk the upper body away from the left leg. So hands can stay on the ground. Hands can come to your blocks. You can even bring your forearms to blocks here. Notice by doing this too, though, you're gonna have to hold your head up, so it's okay to let the head hang back if that feels good to you. Or you can come all the way on to the ground if that feels good. The more you're gonna lean back though, that's gonna affect the sacral lumbar joint. So you wanna be, cautious about where that is feeling. It's where the sacrum and the spine meet. So those are options with minimal props. The other option is very similar to what we did in the beginning, and that is creating our ramp again to provide support there, which is the option I'm personally taking this evening. But do what feels best for you. Just because I'm doing something doesn't mean that's what's going to work for you. So take all of the different options. But again, thinking about what level you want your blocks on and where you want this center block. Using our pillow here to rest, and then sinking in from there. Now, depending on how your knees feel free to prop up the knees. Your right knee, you may want to place your blanket or your block under for just a little bit of additional support. And same thing here with the left leg. Don't feel you have to hold it up. Tuck something up underneath it so you have the support you need and can focus on your breathing and on the stretch. So start to come into what variation calls to you. whatever feels best for you and in your body. And as you come into it, you can be like, oh, that doesn't feel like super great. Always feel free to adjust. So as you've taken the time and you've made your adjustments, remember the stretch doesn't have to be super intense with the holding and with stillness. You'll start to open that up. Tap back into your breath. So in our last shape, you may have gone into your square breathing, so your equal breathing through the 4 parts. As we settle into a deeper place of rest, I'm going to invite you to extend the length of your exhale. So seeing if you can just slowly and mindfully lengthen out the exhale and to be longer than the inhale and the pause at the top of the breath. And remember, if we're pausing, it's not like we're just like holding our breath like we did when we were kids underwater, like puffing out our cheeks. We're just letting the breath rest in the body without bringing any more air. Trying to do that as gently as we can. But it might not be as equal as we want it to be, and that's fine. So seeing here, lengthen out your exhale, maybe by 2 counts, maybe by, double the count. It's really up to you. So use the breath as an indicator and notice the effects that has on the body and on the shape. So you have the option to stay right here if this is what it's calling to you. You're like, yep, I need all of this. Or if you'd like, start to come on up. Keep your legs right where they're at. And then begin to just twist the upper body over your right leg. So you can use your pillow or another prop here to find support for the forearm to bring them down to the ground. So letting the head hang heavy, focusing on a very light twist in the spine. By that I mean we don't passive as we're twisting. Letting the legs just relax, letting the head and the upper body just be. And then as you're ready, wherever you're at, slowly begin to come on up, finding your way onto your back or onto your belly. Feel free to leave your blocks where they're at. If you think you're going to use them for the next side, just move on either side of them. Back and belly are on your side for your puddle. We'll be here for about a minute or so. Just noticing the effects of coming out of the shape. We're able to sink a bit more here. Can we find a bit more rest? How can we let go just a little bit more? And then as you're ready, rolling onto your favorite side, pausing for a moment, coming into a hug if you'd like, staying on your side as long as you need, and then when you're ready, just finding your way up to your comfortable seat. So we'll move into our other side. This time our right foot is going to be behind us. Our left foot's going to come on the inside. Just note the differences anatomically between the right and the left hip. You might feel like you're able to, on this side, bring the foot completely on to the ground, whereas last time you weren't, or this hip just might be able to rotate a little bit differently. All of these things not only are affected by the nervous system and how open we're feeling, but also by just our bone structure. So we can have two different opennesses on the side, just depending on how our hips are built. And those are just awesome things to start to know and be like, yeah, those are my hips. That's great. So, and that will play a role in what props you're using. So your same setup may work. You may want to do something totally different. Again, also how you sit, what chores you've been doing today, or what fun activities you've been doing will change the patterns in your body. So be mindful of that, using as many props as you need or as few props to get into the shape here. Oops. And then allowing yourself to try and get is 5 to 10% more comfortable throughout the length of the shape. Coming back into the pranayama exercise of lengthening the exhale if you took that on the last side. And this time I invite you, whenever you're ready, to come back through this breathing exercise to the two words that you checked in with yourself about at the beginning of your practice, the two words that were starting to describe what you were feeling, how you were feeling. So noticing if the balance has maybe shifted between what word might be a bit more dominant than the other, or what feeling might be a bit more dominant. Noticing if those words have changed. Has the breathing and the practice maybe provided an opportunity to explore one of those feelings a little bit deeper so you have more space for something else? Or has it stayed the same? There's no right or wrong answer to this. So don't worry about whether you're doing it right or not. As long as you're breathing and allowing yourself to just honor where you're at and not judge yourself for how you're feeling. And you're doing it as you should be. So option to stay right here, exactly where you're at. If you're feeling it, this is what you need. If you'd like, you can keep your legs where you're at. Lift your upper body up. And then we'll take our twist variation. Using your pillow, your bolster, blanket, or just the ground. Gently find that light twist of the spine over the left leg. As you're ready, just slowly start to come out of whatever shape you're in, finding your way to your puddle pose. So this will be our last puddle before Shavasana. We'll have one more shape in between there. But really, how can you find rest here? How can you let go a little bit more? And even as you check in with yourself energetically and emotionally and physically, is there a way you can slow down, even here? You might be thinking, I can't slow down anymore, I'm doing nothing. Check in with the nervous system, check in with the heart, check in with the breath. Well, you physically may be slowing down. The other parts of your being is slowing down as well. That might take time, it may not come. There's no need to get anything right tonight. Just notice. And then as you're ready, taking your time, using whatever method you'd like, whether that's coming through a hug or just finding your way on up. And take a comfortable seat once again. So our final shape tonight is going to be our forward fold or caterpillar. So lots of props can be used here. And props, we're not trying to take away the stretch that we're feeling. We're just supporting ourselves a bit more so we can ease into the stretch, allowing the fascia to truly open. So depending on how your hips are feeling with their forward movement tonight, you may want to sit up on your blanket or even your pillow. Bring your legs out in front of you. Legs can be long, just straight, closer together, Or you might even want to create a bit more space. Sometimes that bit of space can really help the hips find the tilt. And depending on just a lot of other factors, that may feel really good too. So work with what best to you. And then just start to fold, letting the back round if it wants. So you can bring the hands just to the legs, the hands to the ground. You can even bring your upper body to a pillow or to a bolster here. If you have a pillow, it might be a little easier to fold, or if you have a bolster, you might want to stack um, blocks on it or something, just so your head has a place to rest if that's what you'd like. So we have this option here. You can always bring the pillow underneath your knees as well. That can provide a nice stretch in the low back. That might be where you need it the most. Or if you need it a bit more in the legs, consider leaving your legs out nice and long. So this will be our final shape this evening. And as you come into this shape, again, how can you become 5 to 10% more comfortable so the body can ease into letting muscles release and get into the fascia, that really plasticky connective tissue parts of the body. So you will feel a stretch. There may be some discomfort, but we don't want to be working toward pain. So using that as an indicator for this last shape. And if you're starting to fall asleep, cool, go with it. If you need a nap, awesome. Go ahead and start taking that now. And then staying here a little bit longer if you'd like, or if you're ready, go ahead and coming on up. Taking any final movements that you need before you come into Savasana, your final resting pose. On your back, on your belly, on your side. Maybe even taking legs up the wall for this final shape. Legs up the wall is probably one of my personal favorites because it just allows the blood to travel in a different fashion, and it can be really good and nourishing for the body and for the soul. And these are all just options. Choose what's best for you. And yeah, so as you start to settle into that shape, into your final resting place, I invite you to take a couple of deep, slow breaths in through the nose. And exhale, open mouth, sigh it out. Just let it go. Taking 2 or 3 more as you're ready, as you're like, allowing these breaths to soften the body. Letting go of the need to hold yourself up on the ground. Coming into a place where you can find a soft point for your gaze or feel comfortable closing the eyes. Starting to notice the brain, the mind, letting it ease away from the center, move toward the sides, softening. And as you do that, feel the crown of the head let go, the eyes release, and even the jaw loosen, bringing a slight space in between the lips, in between the teeth, resting the tongue behind the bottom row of teeth. The muscles in the neck start to turn off as the shoulders melt down the back. Feeling as if any tension, unnecessary tension that you're holding into your arms begins to wash off of you like you're in the shower or in the rain. The ribs start to just open up out to the sides. The belly softens. The back releases. Let your hips, see if they can open up a little bit more. Even if they don't physically, just notice how that is if you can let go of any tension there, or even just a little bit. The legs start to open up more out to the sides as the muscles move away from the bone, falling asleep. Feet relax, the toes release. You feel as if your energy is just moving gently and slowly, almost at a crawl throughout the body. Letting go of the work, letting yourself be supported. beginning to reawaken the senses, wiggling fingers, wiggling toes, keeping the eyes closed if you'd like, and letting the light dance across the eyelids, maybe opening them gently, taking in the space around you. Letting in external sounds, outside sounds. And then as you're ready, starting to find your way to a comfortable seat at the top of your mat. Taking your time, no rush. And if it feels okay to you, bringing one hand to your heart, maybe the other hand over that or onto your belly. Observing your breath in this moment. Noticing your new relationship with the breath after the practice. How can the breath serve you as you move into the rest of your evening and into your week? How can the openness of your heart help you slow down to see the beauty around you? And even have a little time, extra time for yourself, and a little bit more time to help others. And we'll bring our hands to our heart space, honoring the intention or focus we may have set at the beginning of our practice. Bowing head to hands in a moment of gratitude, thanking ourselves for making time for our mat, time for our practice, and silently thanking those who joined us this evening to create this virtual community, this virtual space. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Thank you so much for joining me this evening for our yin practice. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I hope it's restful, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I look forward to practicing with you again soon.